I'm reviewing Rhiannon Giddens' album Freedom Highway.
You can take my body, you can take my bones, you can take my blood, but not my soul. You can take my body, you can take my bones, you can take my blood, but not my soul.
I've never been a religious person, but if I was to get behind a prophet, it would be Rhiannon Giddens. She's a prophet of these times, but with her silken vocal cords and an easy musicality, she plunders the depths of some of the more uncomfortable aspects of her country's history. The songs in the album move from gospel to soul to rap to alt country so easily, and they're exalted by her controlled and soulful voice. These are important songs with a message, but Giddens sings of her country's past and present tragedies with a lightness, a playfulness and a soulfulness. And she's not afraid to add the old school sexy sound of a muted trumpet, nor let her banjo playing do all the talking on Following the North. And she even leaves space for a bluesy guitar riff on Come Love Come. This is Giddens' second album as a solo artist, and one in which she's truly found her way as a songwriter. She has co-written 9 original tracks that feel like natural successors to the staple singer's song Freedom Highway or the civil rights anthem Birmingham Sunday, both featured on this record. Giddens' songs speak of modern issues. Young man was a good man, yet they shot you anyway, she intones on Better Get It Right the First Time, with a rap from her band member Justin Harrington. She cleverly explores the African-American experience from a history of slavery, civil rights, to the issues faced today. And she asks us to know our history and be both horrified and inspired by it. But she does so with rich, clear and controlled vocals. If only all history lessons sounded this good. So who's on board the Freedom Highway?
Apart from that sounding like a David Brent album suggestion.
Yeah. I think she's incredible. I have some issues with her. I think one of her the weakness she has is that she doesn't show weakness.
She has no weakness. Yes.
Well, that she doesn't show weakness. But I love her academic approach to things, which is again part of the issue I have with her as well. But she studies. She's smart and she's researched the history and the songs. This is a woman who learnt Gaelic so that she could sing traditional Scottish songs. She married a Scot, I believe, and she plays really well, and she attacks all of these issues and the history and the contemporary context really well. The problem I have is that I wish sometimes that she could, and I don't think she can, both with the style of her voice and the sound of her voice, I wish she could pull back a little occasionally and show tenderness or warmth. She doesn't do warmth.
Oh, I think her voice is so warm.
Oh, her voice is a killer voice, but it doesn't have that kind of, it doesn't give. It tells you a big story, but it doesn't give.
All right,
but it's great.
I'm surprised that you feel that way. I know what you're saying though, because she's very controlled in her voice, and that's what I liked about it. But it's that operatic training, isn't it? And she's so musically trained.
Yeah, she is.
That's what appeals to me about her.
The first time I thought it was incredible. I saw her perform a few years ago in New York, and she blew me away, blew everyone away in this room. She was the least known person there. I knew her from Carolina Chocolate Drops. When she came on, a lot of people in the room were going, "Who is this?" And she just blew everyone away with this power and this sense of history coming up through her. But I also saw her last year, I think, and the whole show I was thinking, this is really impressive, but I wish I could feel as much for you as I am for the context of the stories. That's where I lose it a bit with her.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I kind of sit in the middle of you guys. You can definitely hear the emotion in what she's singing, and the subject matter is so important
and heavy, a lot of it,
and heavy and very relevant to these times. But there is a coldness that just something which just prevents, like this little membrane that prevents this real emotion.
Gosh, I don't get that at all.
Through.
Yeah, such an emotional voice. I don't know.
It's very emotional subject matter. I don't necessarily agree it's such an emotional voice. I think it's a very, very beautiful voice.
I saw her sing live, and at the time I wasn't as much paying attention to the subject matter as I probably was in this album, and I just found her very emotionally engaging, and she really stole the show at the festival I went to see her at. I actually didn't go to see her. I'd never really heard of her. I'd heard of Carolina Chocolate Drops, but I'd never known of her as a solo artist, and I wasn't expecting her to blow me away as much as she did. So I don't get the coldness thing, but what are your thoughts?
I admit I was just mostly listening to the stories more than the style of the voice, and then looking them up. Like obviously the history of racial killings in South America is horrendous, and so looking up the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing that happened in the song Birmingham Sunday, and finding out about the dynamite that the KKK put there was horrible. And but the fact that she is naming these people that died in the song and telling their story, I think the lyrics meant that I didn't notice whether she was singing wholly or not, because I was just going, wow, this is the way she was weaving these stories around and calling she was number one, she was number two kind of thing.
When I was listening to it, I was thinking about all those people we've reviewed over the last few weeks who have been trying so hard to sort of impress with their production. And I just thought she's the antithesis of that. She puts in an instrument when it's required, when it's necessary, when it works. She doesn't overload, even though she could if she wanted to. She's not showing off. And it's like, you're right, she's telling stories, but even though they're heavy, I think she tells it in a way that you go along with her. It's light, you're enjoying the music, and all of a sudden you realise, oh, I've just, consumed all this knowledge, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, it was recorded in pre-Civil War kind of wooden buildings, in like pre-Civil War wooden buildings. I think it was, unless I'm mistaken, but I think that's the case, which is quite a very definite production approach to the record.
And so the history is there in the buildings where she's recording as well as the stories.
Yeah.
Well, I loved it, and I'm going to give her a healthy 4 stars.
Day by day, I work the line.